So, you've been putting salt in a bowl, right? Hoping it'd boost your money luck? Yeah, I used to do that too. But nothing really changed. Then someone told me, salt holds, water flows. That hit me. Turns out, I was blocking the very thing I wanted most. Movement. Asterisk, asterisk. You know how sometimes we hold on to things too tight? Like we want money to come, but we clutch at it like salt in a dry bowl. Still, waiting. But wealth doesn't grow from stillness. I remember this little glass dish I kept near my window. A simple bowl of salt. It sat there for months, and it felt safe, like I was doing something right. But nothing moved. Not my bank account, not my ideas. It was like I froze the flow. Then one day, I poured water into that bowl, just a little. And I swear, something shifted. Hey, just pause for a sec. I know it's just salt and water, right? But what if it's not? What if this tiny mix is the thing that finally shifts the energy you've been stuck in? I used to think rituals had to be big or complicated. Turns out, some of the strongest ones start in the kitchen. So, stick around. There's a small change I'll share at the end that might just open a new flow you didn't know was blocked. And hey, if you're into this kinda gentle magic, check out the Salt Rituals playlist too. It's quiet, simple, and weirdly powerful. So wait, did you leave your salt sitting dry on a shelf, just collecting dust? Most people think that dry salt alone is already a complete ritual. But here's the truth, it's only half alive. Without water, salt can't move. And energy, it needs motion. A lot of people set out with good intentions. They hear that salt can absorb bad energy, so they place a small bowl somewhere in the house. A windowsill, a corner of the kitchen, sometimes even tucked behind a plant. And then, they forget. No water. No stirring. No emotional connection. It becomes part of the decor, like a souvenir from a ritual they never really finished. And here's where the mistake starts to grow. Salt is powerful, but it's passive when dry. It traps, holds, and locks energy in place. Without activation, it can't circulate what it absorbs. It just sits, like emotional buildup in a room. You walk past it every day. Maybe dust gathers. Maybe the air near it feels a little stale. You might not notice it consciously, but your space is picking up on the stagnation. And slowly, without even realizing it, affects you too. Not in some dramatic bad luck kind of way, but in the quiet, draining way where things just stop flowing right. You feel stuck, heavy, tired, and you don't even know why. And what happens? Your space starts to feel heavy. Money feels stuck. You work hard, but nothing really flows. Because the salt's absorbing, sure, but it's not releasing. It's just hoarding energy. So here's what you do. You bring it back to life. Take that dry, forgotten bowl of salt. Not to throw it out, but to give it a second chance. Add a small amount of purified water, just enough to moisten the surface. And watch. Literally, watch it begin to change. You might hear a soft fizz or feel a shift in the air. That's the salt reactivating. Water doesn't just complete salt. It awakens it. Water equals movement, flow, memory. Salt equals absorption, preservation, intention. When you combine them, you're no longer just leaving energy to sit and decay. You're giving it a channel to be processed and released. Make this a small ritual. Stir it with a wooden spoon. Think of one thing you're ready to let go of. Exhale softly toward the bowl just once. You've now turned a stuck object into a living vessel, one that breathes with your space, and it takes less than a minute. I'll be honest, there was a time I nearly threw my old salt bowl away. It sat under the cabinet for months, dusty, hard. I thought, maybe it's done, maybe it's just dead energy now. But one morning, while cleaning out a drawer, I found a small bottle of spring water I'd forgotten about. I don't know what came over me. I poured just a splash into the salt. Didn't even think much of it. But something shifted. The smell changed. The surface softened. And weirdly, my room, it felt lighter. Like it could breathe again. That day, an invoice I'd been waiting for was suddenly paid. No email, no warning, just appeared. I remember laughing. Not because I thought the salt did it, but because maybe, just maybe, it helped clear the block that was holding it back. Since that tiny shift, I've kept the bowl going. Just salt and water. Nothing fancy. But it's become this quiet ritual. Every Sunday morning, I refill it. A little sprinkle of fresh salt, a few drops of clean water. It's simple, but my space feels alive. Less stuck. Less ooh. More flowy. Like money doesn't feel so heavy anymore. It doesn't flood in, but it doesn't avoid me either. It moves. Like it finally knows where to go. Sometimes the flow you need starts with what you thought was still. So what happens when we mix it with the symbol of fire? So, you made the salt water mix. Nice. But hey, hold on. Where did you put it? Because this tiny placement choice, it could be the reason your money still feels jammed. You think it's just salt, just water. But the direction it faces, the surface it sits on, all that matters more than you think. Okay, so you did the salt ritual. Nice little bowl, good amount of sea salt, even said a soft intention. But then, you just left it there, right next to a stack of unpaid bills. Or maybe under a shelf full of random clutter keys, receipts, old chargers, who knows what. I've seen people put it beside their trash can or under a flickering hallway light. What's the big deal? Well, salt doesn't just sit, it absorbs. And water, it remembers. So when you surround this combo with chaos visual, emotional, or energeticit, start soaking that in. That bowl that was supposed to cleanse and clear. Now it's confused, foggy. Like trying to meditate in a messy room, you can, but the vibe's totally off. And the worst part? It doesn't just lose its power, it starts echoing the mess. If you put it in a cluttered or low energy spot, the salt absorbs noise, stress, and chaotic vibes. And then keeps them. Instead of filtering in wealth chi, it just holds on to stress chi. You end up recycling tension, not clearing it. Here's what you can do. Don't just place the salt and water bowl on it. Clear a small, clean surface, nothing fancy. A wooden nightstand, a windowsill, even the top of your toilet tank if it's clean and clear. Wipe it down, lightly. No scented sprays, just a damp cloth. Then, set the bowl down like you mean it. Just that act shifts the energy immediately. Now, frame it. Add a single item that represents what you want to attract. It could be a tiny citrine stone for clarity, a photo of calm waters, or even a handwritten word: ease, flow, trust. This isn't decor, it's energy design. You're not just doing a ritual, you're setting the tone. And everything around that bowl needs to support that tone. You wouldn't meditate surrounded by garbage. Same for your wealth energy. So don't just drop salt and expect magic. Give it a stage to perform on. There's this woman in Michigan who messaged me last winter. She said, "I tried your salt plus water ritual, but nothing changed. It just sat there." So I asked her, "Where did you place it?" And she said, "On the floor, behind the television." Pause. "You feel that?" I told her, "Pick it up, wipe it clean, move it to where your intentions live." She didn't have an altar, so she cleared a little spot on her bookshelf right next to her journals and a candle she never lit. That night, she lit the candle. The bowl glowed, and for the first time in weeks, she breathed easier. She wrote me again 10 days later. Said a client who ghosted her months ago had suddenly reached out to settle the invoice. Tiny shift, big ripple. Once you move that salt and water bowl to the right place, where you see it, where it gently reminds you to stay aligned, something shifts. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. But you start to notice fewer impulse buys, less mental fog when budgeting. You begin catching yourself before you say, "I'm broke." Bills get paid, and somehow it doesn't feel heavy. It's like your money starts flowing in a steady, calm stream. Not rushing, not stuck, just right. When the vessel is honored, the flow returns. Let's go deeper. Because it's not just where you place it, it's what's around it too. You ever stand at your kitchen sink and feel like you're stuck? Like no matter how much you clean, you can't clean the stale vibe? It's not the clutter. It's the tiny bowl of salt sitting next to your sponge, soaking in all the wrong energy. This one's sneaky. A lot of people, especially in smaller apartments or shared spaces, tend to tuck the salt bowl on a high shelf, or hide it behind decorative items like books, candles, or even a plant. The intention is usually good, to keep it safe, or "I don't want people asking about my spiritual stuff." But here's what that accidentally does. It isolates your intention. It says to the energy, "I'm not ready to see you fully." Or worse, "I'm a little embarrassed about my abundance work." Qi doesn't flow well to what's hidden. And salt rituals, especially with water, need visibility to activate. They're meant to be acknowledged, not ignored. When the bowl is too high above eye level or too covered, its power to shift energy is muted. It's like trying to speak from a closet and expecting the whole room to listen. So yeah, it's not just about placement. It's about whether you're openly holding space for abundance in your life, or kind of whispering it under your breath. If you keep it there, you might experience money leaking out faster than it comes in, opportunities that slip away last minute, a nagging sense of loss, even after a good week financially. It feels like you almost have enough, but never fully do. Here's the shift. Instead of hiding the bowl or placing it up high where it feels forgotten, bring it down into your line of sight, right where your eyes land as you walk into the room. You don't have to turn it into a big altar. No drama, no incense clouds. Just make it visible. Make it part of the space you live in. You could place it near a windowsill in the kitchen, on a small wooden tray in the entryway, or even next to your coffee machine. Yes, even there. It's not about tradition, It's about recognition. Let the bowl breathe. Give it enough space to speak into the room. If you're using a glass bowl with water and salt, that soft glimmer of light reflecting on the surface, it does something to your nervous system. Feels like, I see you. I remember why I'm doing this. And more importantly, the room sees it too. The salt doesn't just cleanse. It holds. And when placed with awareness, it becomes a silent partner in your everyday rituals. Not something you hide out of spiritual shyness. So try this tonight. Move the bowl down. Make it part of the scenery, not a secret. I had a viewer, Hannah, from Wisconsin, who messaged me last year. She said she placed her bowl right behind the sink faucet for months. She kept wondering why every time she set a financial goal, something always came up. Car repair, vet bill, unexpected fees. When she moved the bowl to her windowsill above the fruit basket, her words, "I finally felt like the money I earned stayed in my home. It didn't run off anymore." Simple shift. Big peace. When you place that salt bowl somewhere intentional, somewhere with light, air, movement, the whole moment starts to feel alive again. You're no longer just cleaning the kitchen. You're passing by a little energy anchor. It catches your eye, not loud, not flashy, just there, grounding you. And something subtle shifts. You breathe differently. You stir your coffee a little slower. You actually notice how your space feels. And that's the real wealth shift. It's not about crystals or big declarations. It's the feeling that you're back in flow, that the money stress isn't gripping your chest quite so tight, that somehow everything's starting to hum again. Don't let your intention drip away with the dishes. Stay with me, because loop 4, it might be the most emotional one yet. You ever wonder why your money feels stuck? Like it's not flowing, no matter how hard you try. You thought placing water near salt would double the power, but if that water just sits there, untouched, it can actually hold your wealth hostage, putting your saltwater bowl far from where energy actually enters. Okay, let's be real for a sec. A lot of us set up these little salt water rituals, and then we kinda just shove them somewhere random. Behind a plant, way back on a shelf, maybe on top of the fridge where nobody can see. Why? Because it feels awkward, or we're afraid someone will ask about it. Or maybe, deep down, we're not sure if it's even doing anything. So instead of making it part of the space, we hide it. But here's the problem. Energy doesn't respond to what's hidden. It flows toward what's open, invited, and intentionally placed. If you place your salt plus water ritual in a spot that's disconnected from the actual energy entry points, like your front door, your main hallway, or even a space you pass through every day, you're basically asking your wealth chi to show up, and then giving it no path in. It's like setting up a welcome mat at the back door that nobody uses. And that's the thing most people miss. It's not just what you place. It's where you place it that shifts everything. Over time, you may start to notice subtle shifts. Your focus scatters, bills pile up, and those small money leaks. They turn into a silent drain, not dramatic, just slow and steady, like a faucet that won't shut off. All right, so how do we actually invite energy and not just set it and forget it? Here's the move. Place your salt plus water bowl near a natural energy path. Think near the front door, but not directly on the floor. On a small console table in your entryway. On the side of your living room, where air and light move freely. Even in your hallway, if it connects different parts of your home. The key is to find where life already flows and gently insert the ritual there. You're not forcing it. You're weaving it into your space like an invitation. Add a small tray underneath to elevate it. Maybe one leaf, one small crystal, or even a folded intention note nearby. Keep the bowl clear. Replace the water weekly. Stir the salt gently with your fingers every few days. And here's something I always remind myself. If it feels hidden, it's probably not working. But if it feels intentional, visible, sacred, light-filled, that's when it begins to shift. Because energy moves toward care. And care is the most powerful form of placement. You know what's funny? At first, I just dropped the salt bowl on my kitchen counter, right next to the blender. No thought, no intention, just, meh, that'll do. And it sat there, untouched, buried under receipts and grocery lists. Didn't feel sacred. Didn't feel like anything. One evening, after a long, heavy day, I walked past it and realized it was collecting dust. Not energy, not clarity, just dust. So I moved it to the little table by my front door. I wiped the bowl, changed the water, added a tiny brass coin I found in an old box, lit a tea candle beside it, and I swear the whole corner felt different. Like I finally honored something that had been waiting. I paused for a second, whispered a quiet thank you, and that night, I slept better than I had in weeks. Since that night, I don't skip it anymore. That tiny salt bowl by the door, it became a pause, a breath, a moment to check in before the chaos. We didn't win the lottery, but the house feels lighter. Bills stopped piling all at once. Unexpected refund from the electric company. A friend offered help with groceries, just because. It's not magic like fireworks. It's the kind that feels grounded. Like the universe finally sees that you're showing up even in small ways. Stillness can be sacred. But when it turns to neglect, it becomes a block. Now, let's talk about the kind of bowl you're using. Because yes, even that can twist your flow. You know what's funny? Some people do everything right: salt, water, bowl, but still feel stuck. Ever wonder why? Here's the kicker. They forget the placement. Like where the bowl lives in your home. And sometimes it's sitting exactly where energy goes to die. So here's what I keep seeing. People finally make their salt bowl. They're proud of it: carefully layered salt, clean water, even a little gold-rimmed dish, looking all magical on the outside. But then, they put it right on the coffee table, in the middle of the living room, surrounded by phones, television remotes, laptop chargers, and, yeah, last night's snacks. What they don't realize is, the center of the house is like a roundabout. Energies flying from every direction. It's not a place to hold intention. It's where energy passes through, gets mixed up, pulled apart. So instead of absorbing negative vibes or amplifying wealth flow, your salt's just getting confused. It ends up reacting to noise, heat, electronics, and random clutter. The water starts to feel off, like it's holding everyone's chaos instead of cleansing it. And when that happens, you start to feel like your ritual's broken. You doubt it. Money doesn't shift. It's like nothing's moving outside or within. Some even say their bowl starts to smell. And they give up. Okay, here's how you fix it. Move your salt plus water bowl away from the chaos center. Don't let it soak up everyone's distractions. Find a still corner. maybe on a quiet shelf in your bedroom, or near a window where light drips in slow and soft in the morning. Somewhere that feels like it breathes, not buzzes. Before placing it, wipe the surface with intention. Feel your hands calming the space. Then pour fresh water. Add salt, slowly like snow settling in silence. Let it become the bowl, not just look like one. And here's the key. Place a small object beside it that reminds you why you're doing this. A coin, a photo, a little note with your intention. Something personal. Something only you understand. You're not just putting a bowl in a corner. You're planting stillness. So the energy knows where to land and where to grow. So, there's this woman I knew. Single mom, 3 jobs, always tired. She told me once, I don't even know what calm feels like anymore. Everything in her house was fast keys thrown, phone buzzing, water boiling, but never still. One night, she decided to try something simple. Just pour water in a bowl, add salt, and place it by the window near her bed. She didn't light a candle, didn't say a fancy chant. She just whispered, please, slow things down. 3 days later, she called. She said, Matthew, I woke up and for the first time in years, I didn't reach for my phone. I just sat there. It was so quiet, and somehow it didn't scare me. She smiled through the phone and added, I think the money stuff will come. But right now, I think peace is showing up first. And when peace shows up first, money doesn't feel like a fight anymore. The tension melts. You're not chasing bills. You're aligning. That little bowl of salt water by her window, it didn't solve every problem, but it softened the space. It softened her. She stopped panicking about what wasn't working. And slowly, things started flowing. An unexpected check. A refund she forgot. One of her side clients paid early. Not magic, just movement. And that movement started when her energy finally had a place to breathe. Where your salt rests, your energy resets. And speaking of resting, let's talk about the moment most people pour it all down the drain, without knowing what they're really doing. 1. Mix with presence. Don't just toss salt in a bowl and walk away. Take 1 minute. Warm water, natural salt. Stir slowly, clockwise. Let your hand carry the intention. You're not just mixing ingredients. You're waking up flow. 2. Place it where chi feels tired. By the window, near the sink. Beside your front door. Anywhere the energy feels off. Don't overthink. Just ask yourself, where does my space feel stuck? Then, place the bowl there. Silently. 3. Change it often. Salt and water absorb everything. Stuck thoughts, heavy emotions. After 3 days, pour it out. Release it with a small thank you. Then make a fresh bowl. Ritual is rhythm. And rhythm is where wealth begins. You know, we always talk about big changes. New job, more money. But sometimes, the most powerful shift is a bowl of salt and water, sitting quietly, in the right place. There's a kind of peace in doing something small, but doing it with full intention. And when your space feels lighter, don't be surprised if your mind does too. If this felt gentle but deep, don't stop here. I made a whole playlist of salt rituals. Tiny acts to clear the way for money to find you. It's right here, waiting. Let's flow softer and richer together.